therapy school, it might be $300 per school. So it just kind of depends. Yes, sir.
What's the difference between the GRE and the GMAT?
The GMAT is the Graduate Management Admissions Test, so that's to get into graduate business programs typically. And the GRE is a more universal test that goes to most non-professional schools. So each professional school, like if you want to be an optometrist, a doctor, a dentist, they all have their own admissions tests, so MCAT, BAD. Yes?
So I'm going to be studying here for 4.5 years, be taking at least half a year, maybe a full year gap before starting med school. How would the timeline for applications be affected by that? Would I want to go ahead and apply for like a year ahead, or would I wait?
If you know you're going to have a gap, you can wait and just apply the fall before you want to be admitted. But you need to keep in contact with your pre-health advisors here, because they're the ones that will hopefully endorse you and help your packet move along. So also for medical college admissions, the acceptance rate is much higher the second time around. So, and the third time around, it's even that much higher, because I think they think you're really serious about being a doctor at that point. So you can kind of look at that and think, do I know I want to take that year off, or do I want to go ahead and apply? Kind of factor that into your application process.
Do you know if it's possible to apply for
An
an
off
extra year
semester.
ahead, or do you have to? I know like medical school applications are on a specific timeline. I'm not sure
Right.
if you can-
So you can't necessarily apply a year and a half out, but you can apply that 1 year out. Yeah.
I was just wondering, so I guess what materials or subjects are covered by the GRE? Like
Okay.
Math,
So
English?
yes, math, English, any of your social sciences like psychology, sociology, social work. And the GRE will work for some business schools. Baylor accepts the GRE instead of the GMAT for their business school. There are hundreds of business schools that accept the GRE, but some will accept either, kind of like the ACT or the SAT. And sometimes people find, like, did y'all have a preference with the ACT or the SAT? So some people find that the GMAT may be slightly easier to score well on. So if you're going to business school anyway, and only business school, sometimes the GMAT works in your favor. Yes.
What is considered a good score?
So that depends on admission standards. Usually you'd like to score at least in the 75th percentile, which would be about a 305. So it's kind of, I would look at your school's admission standards and what your practice test says. I mean, you'll know what your own personal good score means. And so for most people, a good score on verbal means a not as good score on analytical, and vice versa. So usually you're strong in one and not quite as strong in the other. So there's in the GRE, there's like a written, a verbal, and an analytical. So some people, you know, if you're going into a math program, they're going to weight. They're not going to weight the verbal quite as heavily, or the writing. But if you're going into English, they might not weight the math as heavily. So just kind of depends on your program. Other questions about graduate admissions tests? There is a website, ets.org. They are the creators of the GRE, and they have lots of good practice materials. I would encourage you to take, there's all kinds of free practice tests, and you should take them before you take a real test. Kaplan, Princeton Review, and ETS will all give you a free practice test. Kaplan and Princeton Review, they're doing it so that they can show you how poorly you're going to do and how much you need their services to teach you how to take the test. But don't listen to them, you'll be fine. No, but they do have some great free resources, and in October specifically, they have some free classes that you can take to prep for the GRE in hopes that you'll feel like you need more and want to pay the $700 or $800. But if you are self-disciplined, you can absolutely study for the GRE without taking one of those courses. If you know that you'll never study without like a forced class or the commitment of the $800, then for some people it makes sense. But you can absolutely do it without taking the practice Kaplan, Princeton review stuff. But I'm going to tell you about it anyway. Baylor Continuing Ed also has one. It's equally expensive, and so I encourage you to pick one you love or just study on your own if you are able. This is a really small personal statement information, but it's also in these little handouts here, and it just says like how to start your personal statement. Most schools will request either a personal statement, a statement of intent, or a research statement, sometimes a teaching statement. So those are all things you have to write to get into grad school. Usually they'll just pick one and ask you to write that. So this book kind of walks you through how to write that. We also give workshops on that, or we can help you individually. If you have one written, we'll critique it for you. We critique for content and grammar. If you are a really bad writer, we encourage you to go to the writing center, because we can't work magic on, on writing that is super subpar, but we can definitely critique for content and for grammar, things like that. So most personal statements are 500 to 700 words. Occupational therapy, you can write 1,500 words, which is really a lot of words to write. So it kind of runs the gamut between 500 and 2,000 words for your essays. You basically want to say why you're qualified, the experiences you've had that have added to, that make you unique, and then what you plan to, this is the part people leave off, like what you plan to do in the future after you get your graduate degree. So how is this program going to take you, help you either, improve the world or improve your situation, or what your future plans are after you go through their program. So we could talk for 2 hours on personal statements, but we won't. I'll spare you. So the next thing you need to think about is your letters of rec. This is for y'all sophomores and freshmen. Start getting to know your professors and making, keeping in contact with them, because if you wait 3 years and then you need a letter of rec from them, they will not remember you. And you'll have to remind them who you are and why they should write a letter for you. But if you kind of start developing relationships with your faculty members, especially, really anyone who plans to go to grad school, pre-health, all of your social sciences and things like that, you're going to need people to recommend you, and professors are your prime candidates. Also, former employers and things like that, but you need at least one professor if you're going to grad school. And some people have policies against it, so you need to kind of know who will actually write you a letter and who will just say, no, I don't write letters. So ask around before you pick your favorite. I'm sorry that was a lot of information really fast, but I am happy to answer questions. I have these, I brought 10 of these because I wasn't sure how many y'all need, but these have sample resumes, questions about grad school, questions about interviewing, all different kinds of stuff. So I'd love for y'all to come get one if you're interested. And if you didn't get to sign in on the computer, I would love for y'all to sign in also.
What's the difference between a CV and a resume?
Oh, okay, great question. A CV stands for curriculum vitae, and that is the long version of your resume, basically. It can include things like publications, research you've done. You know how you go to those academic conferences and you do poster projects and present poster projects? that kind of stuff. And also research interests that maybe you've never actually researched, but this is an area you would like to research in the future. That can all go on your CV, and that's typically not found on a resume. A lot of times grad schools or employers will use that word interchangeably, CV and resume, but the CV is like the full version and the resume is like the edited version, just the highlights. Any other questions? No? Yes, sir.
So for a CV, would you include, like work experience?
Yes, it still has the components of a resume, just additional components. All right, well, thank y'all so much for having me.